Right. Okay, I'd like to call to order Monday, June 2nd, 2025, our city council meeting at 7 p.m. If you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Got some visitors today. 6 of us are present. Kim Holmes, Councilor Holmes is online. Are you there, Kim?
I am. Yes. Good evening.
Great, thank you. If everybody's had a chance to look at tonight's agenda, for approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Councilor Haugen. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Jacob. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Today, public comment. We do have at least one. Is there any other public comment? Is anybody anything online?
I can also provide public comment.
If you like to do it now, we can, or we can just go another minute or two and then get back to public comment. How long are you, is Emma, when's she gonna be here roughly?
I would say 5 minutes. She's coming.
Let me get through consent agenda. That'll be a couple minutes, and if you're not, we'll let you start. I don't want to get going into the Meisner thing because that could take a while. Okay, we'll skip right now to the consent agenda. Tonight, we're looking at the May 19th, 2025 City Council work session minutes and the May 19th, 2025 City Council meeting minutes. We're looking at those. I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. Councilor Santiago makes a motion to approve. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Councilor Friends. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll go to the public comment. I'll read this. This is a place on the agenda where the public is invited to speak to council regarding any matter not on the agenda and not scheduled for a public hearing. Members of the public addressing council are requested to give their name and city of residence. Please try not to repeat questions to allow for more time for speakers. Speakers are to limit their testimony to 5 minutes, or we are limited to 30 minutes total for all public comment. So if you like to come up and start, you can. Just
So is it 5 minutes combined or is it
5 each.
5 each?
And you take your time. But we'll have you a name and residence, and then afterwards, if you could just sign there so we have it, a record there of a name and number, in case we need to get back in touch.
She's,
That's fine. Yeah.
Good.
I just, if there's things that she's probably gonna repeat, 'cause she's not gonna hear you, but that's fine. You know,
Sure.
if you want to start your, yeah, just, yeah, go ahead. And we're loud into this for them to hear and to record. We can hear you fine, but this allows you to get on the computer.
My name is John Dagernis. I'm a resident of Warren, Oregon, or if you ask my 4 children, I'm a resident of Scappoose because all my 4 children go to the Scappoose School District. We're here to talk about something that I didn't know existed until about a month and a half ago. Even though, well, let me reclaim that. I did know it existed because my children go to the Scappoose Public Library probably 4 times a week after school to do homework. And we do see a Tesla charging station that is prominent, taking up lots of parking spots. And while I know that some residents of Scappoose own Teslas, I can't imagine it's that amount that would necessitate an entire charging station next to a public library. I didn't, because I don't live on this street, realize what a nuisance it is until I came to meet with my Uncle Terry and some of the residents on this street to talk about perhaps imposing some sort of operating hours to that station, because there are apparently none. It's if somebody's rolling through town at 2 a.m, they're more than okay to pull in to a very residential street, as well as also 2 p.m. Kids are coming from Otto Peterson, eventually Grant Watts, and they're not necessarily abiding to our municipal or community guidelines of let's not go 25-30 down Second at 2:30 in the afternoon while kids are trying to go to a library. While I was having the meeting with Terry and several of their neighbors, it's my daughter, Emma Degernis, a junior at Scappoose High School. We did witness quite a bit, and I will turn it over to a more articulate and eloquent version of myself, but at a much younger age, who's prepared, I think, a more meaningful.
Great. Okay, Emma, we did get kind of a gist of what we're talking about. We're here at public comment. Typically, you've got 5 minutes. A lot of times we don't talk back. Maybe we'll ask a clarifying question, but typically we don't get into a conversation here. We'll take your information, we'll process it, we'll talk with city manager, and we'll come up with an answer. We'll come up with the next steps on this, but typically in the public comment, we're just going to sit here and listen to you and maybe ask a clarifying question. Just state your name, city of residence, and then you've got your 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, members of the council, city officials, and fellow residents. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is M. Degernis, Miss City of Bridges teen, and a resident of this community, Scappoose. This evening, I speak on behalf of my great uncle Terry and the residents of 2nd Street. I come before you today not only as a member of this town, but as someone who has a deep appreciation for the values of safety, respect, and shared responsibility that define a healthy community. Unfortunately, since the electric vehicle chargers were installed at the library, we have seen a significant shift in the behavior of individuals utilizing our local spaces, many of whom who do not live here. These changes have impacted our daily lives, our peace, and in some cases, our safety. Let me begin with the issue of traffic and parking. Visitors often take up 2 or even 3 parking spaces at a time. This lack of consideration directly affects residents who rely on those spots. It is not only inefficient, it is inconsiderate. Many individuals also leave their headlights on, play excessively loud, explicit music, both all through the night and into the early morning, and remain parked in their vehicles for long periods of time. Our community streets are not intended to serve as a service station or a place to loiter. Additionally, excessive noise has become a persistent problem. On many days, the noise from cars parked at the charging stations and individuals driving the vehicles can be heard from over a block away. For residents who work from home, this is more than just a nuisance. It disrupts productivity and peace of mind. The speed at which many electric vehicles travel through our streets is deeply concerning. This is especially dangerous near the playground, where children are often present. The posted speed limit is 25 miles per hour, yet many disregard it completely. I urge the council to consider implementing speed bumps or other traffic calming measures to protect our most vulnerable residents. We must also look at the broader issue of respect for our community. The majority of those creating these disruptions appear to be individuals from outside 2nd Street or even this community, particularly from Portland, who have no investment in Scappoose. They do not support our local businesses, attend our schools, or pay taxes here, and yet they take up space, disrupt the peace, and leave without accountability. It is imperative that we consider establishing clearer guidelines for the use of public spaces, including designated hours of use. These guidelines would ensure that our shared areas remain accessible and safe for all residents while discouraging misuse. What is perhaps most troubling is that law enforcement is stationed just down the street, and yet these violations persist. Increased enforcement of parking regulations, speed limits, and noise ordinances will go a long way in restoring peace and order in our community. This is not a call for exclusion, it is a call for mutual respect. We welcome all who wish to enjoy our community, library, and playground. That must come with the expectation of respectful behavior, adherence to the law, and consideration for the people who live here. In closing, I urge the council to take these concerns seriously. Let us act before these issues escalate further. We deserve a neighborhood where residents feel safe, respected, and heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. we've got that. We've got all your information is now on public record, and you'll hear some response from us.
Thank you.
At some time. Appreciate it. Thank you. You don't have a brother that plays Little League, do you?
We got two.
He was a lot of fun last couple nights umpiring him. He's a fun kid to umpire. Okay, appreciate it. Any more public comments? Susan stepped out. Seeing none, we're gonna move on now to,
Mr. Mayor, quick follow-up question. Ben, would there be any issue with, or Chief, would there be any issue with posting signs up there? I know the PUD is the one that put that installation in. Would there be an issue with putting a sign up there for hours or operating hours?
Sure. I think that'll come down to council to make a code for that, if we're gonna go that route. But I think we should maybe talk some more offline and actually
Yeah.
see what's a good option too.
I think some more discussion, because I have had issues on the other side too, complaining about people parking there that aren't charging. I mean, there are other issues too, that we need to look at the whole picture. Probably going forward. I mean, it is new, so we're learning as well. So it's something we need to look at.
I think there's some sort of an agreement with Columbia River PUD or the providers also, so we'd want to research that to see what that agreement says.
And it being in our downtown overlay too, this whole area is kind of our downtown overlay, and they'll have different rules and regulations as well. So we need to look at the whole picture. But we appreciate that. Those are things that are good to hear. Okay, new business, Meisner Park donation agreement, City Manager Ben Bergener.
Thank you, Mayor Backus and council. Yeah, on July 15th, 2024, this originally was brought up to the council. Included in the packet is that original document that was proposed, had gone through the council and was proposed to move forward. And as that was right around transition time when I started coming in, as we got through that and worked with the Meisners, worked with our legal counsel to come up with an agreement that matched what the agreement or the proposed agreement that the council had reviewed and agreed to could look like, and how to move forward with that. There were a few changes, mostly one change. The Meisners had a worry after their original agreement that the words were not strong enough to make sure that the city wouldn't use it for other purposes. So even though it already had that it would not be used for other purposes, they were concerned if the city were to decide to sell it or to put development on there, what would happen? There's nothing in there that would state that we couldn't do that, and then it'd be a legal battle. And so they wanted some stronger language. So I took it back to our legal counsel and made a couple different proposals and talked to them about that. One being that the one that we came up with is what the Meisners are most okay with, that if we were to decide to do anything else, that would just revert back to them. And if the trust is no longer there, that it would go to the Bird Alliance. In the end, the Meisner said, I don't expect this to happen. I mean, ideally, I think the city would want to keep and utilize the park, and they don't foresee an issue, but they just wanted to make sure that there was, especially since different councils come and go, different staff, they just wanted to make sure that it was a done deal, that there would be enough teeth in there that the city would use it for that park long term. So the agreement is in there with that change, in addition to the original terms that were proposed, and the recommendation of staff is to go ahead and the Meisners have already agreed to this. They've reviewed it. That they approved me to go ahead and sign this, get all documents related to getting the donation over to the city taken care of. With that, the original agreement, and it's already in our budget, was that they wanted to make sure that we got a fence built right away and some signage and some frontage, but not all improvements right off the bat. I understand that we're limited on our budget, but they just want to make sure that there's at least some access as soon as possible. With the donation of the land, it's not a really big cost share that we have to go into for that, and I felt that was pretty reasonable to do.
But one thing, is the definition of a nature preserve in a public park pretty explanatory, so that obviously that's what we have in mind right now, but in 20 years, a public park, I mean, that's to find somewhere. So if they want to make changes, I mean, it's still got to be a public park of some sort.
Right, it'd have to
Doesn't-
be for, and it has the intent, go over to the
6, I guess,
words.
just pretty generic. I mean,
Right, it is up for interpretation. They would, that part would still have to be litigated if there was a determination that, hey, this isn't for that. Really, the purpose, if we ever look at getting rid of it, they would default
Yeah.
back to them, or if they wanted to claim that we were misusing it, the same thing would happen, but,
Okay.
yeah.
and then, so the idea now, I mean, we'll do the fence fairly soon and then maybe take down their fence and it will be open to walking. I mean, soon that you can at least walk. There may not be trails.
Right, and Dave was thinking of
Fine.
maybe get some dirt trails or some, he already has paths in
Yeah.
there. So it would just be cleaning up some weeds and making it accessible for the public right off the bat. Or
Parking.
as soon as possible, as soon as reasonable for that.
There's a little bit of parking along the street or across the street, but no real parking lot or bathrooms at this time.
Right. Not part of the initial one. Eventually they would like to see a park, like a playground and a bathroom with the intent to preserve as many trees as possible. They've planted all those trees themselves, and so they hold a lot of
Yeah.
value to, wanting, and they have a good variety of different trees. They have a bamboo forest in there and other things. So
I think right now, yeah, you walking through there is a lot of neighborhoods. You can just walk from your house. It's
Right.
a beautiful little neighborhood. Well, appreciate it. Thank you very much to the, yes.
no, nothing in here has what timeline that would go in. It's just the intent in the future for that. It would be put into whatever priorities at that time. Right.
Okay, great.
Probably come up with the name and the plaque and the fence. Just right about now. Yeah.
So obviously this was not part of the Parks and Rec master plan, and so that needs to, would that be, have to update or change? Because there's been an amenities added, and I'm just thinking about budget, right? Where is it gonna go in regards to what amenities of the other parks was already discussed with the committees on what's gonna be done?
Right, and
Regards
that's a
to
little bit what Marissa's mentioning. How would that be prioritized? We'd have to amend that a little bit. We don't need to do a full Parks and Master Plan update with just that. It's a kind of a new thing in there, but considering what we have, our Parks Master Plan, the council and staff would look at, once again, what are our priorities and go after those first, beyond the initial getting it up and going.
What about the maintenance? Have you guys discussed that with the public works? Like what? the
Right,
cost
Dave,
of
Dave
it?
has been part of this the entire time. I want to make sure that he was part of that conversation, knowing what it would entail on there. The Meisners are already, they're volunteering a lot of their time still for some maintenance, but overall maintenance, Dave didn't feel it was an extreme burden for that type of park, with what they have on there.
Because that's not in the budget, right?
Yeah, so it'll be added to our inventory of parks. And then if anything of significance is desired there, then it probably would have to come to us because it wasn't on our real priorities list
Right.
yet. Okay,
Mr. Mayor, I think we should probably note that this is a major donation.
yes,
So, nearly 2 acres of valuable residential property there. And so I hope we can make some kind of appropriate gesture to show our appreciation for this.
yeah, I would like to,
There's the name of dedication. Is you requesting to name the park?
Yeah,
after
the name is the Timmy Nature Preserve, TIMEE, and then they'll have a plaque that states this nature preserve and park are dedicated to Native Americans who lived on this land for thousands of years in harmony with nature.
it'd be nice at some time to meet out with him and when maybe the plaque and the fence is up and kind of dedicate it, because you may not build it right now, so I don't want to wait till we put in a driveway and a bathroom, but do something. This is, he had mentioned this a couple years ago, and it was really exciting to hear and really thank him very much for this and his family.
Right, and overall, possible improvements in there are pretty low cost compared to other ones. I mean, it is a quick turnaround. possible win for the city, even if we look at reprioritizing and putting that on there as a gesture in addition to our initial as we go forward, because there's really not a lot beyond a parking lot, a bathroom, and then maybe a play structure, depending on what size you go on that too. So compared to what we have on other parks to do, this could be a quick in the long run, but once again, that would be determined by the council if that escalates beyond anything else besides our initial ones.
The Meisners are long-term Scappoose residents, and I had them as teachers in high school and school and played against the sun. And it's nice to have these families. There's a lot of people here that are passionate and love to give back. And I'm sure a lot of us would like to give you land if we could, and they're able to. So I appreciate it, Mr. Meisner. Any more comment, discussion? So I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve the Meisner property donation agreement and approve the city manager to sign the proposed land donation agreement and all other documents associated with the land donation to transfer ownership of the property to the Meisners to the from the Meisners to the city of Scappoose.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Jacob.
I'd like to that council approve the acceptance of
Motion to approved by Councilor Jacobs. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor LaFrenz. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for working on this,
Yes.
Bergner, and getting it completed. The same agreement. Yeah. It's Ryan. If you'd like to come up real quick, you're speaking, did you say about the same item that they spoke about? Okay. Just name and city of residence, and we give 5 minutes for public comment. And since we've already had part of it, we'd like to hear a little bit more. So go ahead.
Okay. Hello, my name is Ryan Seeley and I actually live right here in the neighborhood. And sorry I was late. I was at the Native American graduation of high school. So I don't know exactly everything that was spoken about, but it's a disruption, not that the charging station is there, but when people are there, I mean, the lights shine directly into my house too, as well as I know Terry. The lights, people always have their lights on, so they're just shining at nighttime. If, maybe if there was a sign that could be put up to say, turn the vehicles off. I don't know much about Teslas, but if you can turn it off, the lights will be off. Not only that, loud music during the day for us that do have to work from home. I have another neighbor, Donica Brown, Dr. Brown, who also lives right here as well. It's a disruption to her work as well. There's loud music playing. So just if there could be a sign put up saying like, turn off your lights, please, and no loud music, I think would be great.
Right.
I mean, I'm in favor of the charging station itself, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Yeah, with public comment, we take your comment. We might ask a question, but typically we've gotten the comment from before and we'll discuss this and come up with something for you. Someone will
Okay,
get back to you.
awesome.
Appreciate
Thank
it. Thank you.
you.
Ryan. Okay. Moving on to number 3, 2025 Community Enhancement Program Allocation, Assistant to City Manager, City Planner, NJ Johnson, if you'd like to take the lead.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Council. So last council meeting on May 19th, we had the presentations of 16 grant applications for this year's CEP program. And now we're in the allocation stage. So in our total pot, we have $42,016. And there was a total of $65,775 requested. So with that difference, city needs to come up with some kind of scheme in order to allocate those dollars. So I put together 2 sort of, I'm calling them like allocation packages to get us started here. Those are on Exhibit A, which is a couple of pages into the report. Essentially, the first one, number 1, I'm calling the tier system. So I was able to get scores from 5 of the 7 of you, which is a good majority for data science purposes. But especially for those who weren't able to score, please feel free to chime in on these, proposals and where they stand. But the tier system takes the average, and based on the average, you can see in the table within the narrative of the staff report, it breaks it down by what percentage of their requested allocation that they would be receiving under this system. So, you know, and you can see there's not necessarily a super consistent, you know, like the first one is 3/4 and then it's a quarter and then it's a single one. Part of this is that, you know, these are really random things and you got to just make them fit in the way that it'll fit and in a way that all adds up to $42,016 exactly. So it's a mix of art and science here, even though it's all numbers. But that's the way the tier system works. Under the tier system, your average score matters a lot more than in the other system I'm about to go over. And additionally, you know, the ones that you all scored the highest, the ones that were the averages that were 4.2 and above, essentially, or excuse me, 4.25 and above, those would be receiving 100%, and then 90%, 80%. And then when it becomes, you know, more middle scoring applications, like the tier 4 is 3.5 to 3.99, then in order to stay under or at that 42,016 number, we go down to 50% allocation. In the tier system, not every organization gets funded. I believe 14 of the 16 are funded under the tier system. The other one, which is the proportional system, number 2, under that system, everyone gets a little bit of an allocation. Your score matters, not as much though as the tier system, particularly if you're a higher scoring application, you know, like you're a 4.2 or a 4.1 or so, you wouldn't be getting as much as you would in the tier system. But if you're a middle or lower scoring application, you're going to get more in the proportional system than you would the tier system. The other thing about the proportional system, it's kind of based off the idea that every organization gets a little bit of the funding. So I created these so that we're not doing a bunch of math and spreadsheets and meetings, but these, if you all want to have changes, they can be used as starting points. They can be used for approval if there's one of the packages that you all are comfortable with. So I guess we should start with discussion of which system people prefer to start with.
Thank you, NJ. I appreciate this. I personally, because again, kind of going off, if 4 of us had given something a 0, then we understood that we would typically not fund. I feel like I wish I could give everybody all their money. And so I'd like to see where everybody got something. You know, some I would say I would have maybe given a little more, and some I would give a little less, but that's me personally, not all of us. But I do like that everybody was able to get something. My criteria was that they were helping people within the community, helping kids. I felt that they all had at least something to give. So I'd like to at least see something. But either one to me, I'm fine with. But right now, I think 2, being that everybody got at least something. Yes.
So,
Kim's also got her hand raised, just so you know.
oh, sorry. So the only issue that I have with the proportional system is we were asked to rank these, and for example, you know, the 5 was full funded preferred first priority, which put Amani Center, Scappoose Community Club, and Scappoose Public Library. So I feel like because did we all decide or close to all decided?
Nobody gave all
Full
5.
funding? Okay.
I believe the highest ranking organization was a 4.4 average, and that was 3 4s and 2 5s.
So, okay, yeah, the only thing I was wondering just if the top ones, if we did want to do the full funding, that's the only question that I have, basically.
Mr. Mayor, I like tier 1 approach. And then I think we really should get the other 2 counselors to put their either 0s or 1s or whatever. So we have the full contingent of assessments, and it won't take long. So,
Councilor Holmes, before we go too deep.
Yeah, I also just want to state I prefer the number 1, the tier system, for a couple of reasons. It does allow full award of the request for those nonprofits that some of us did give 5s to. And then second, in the proportional system, you find in some cases there are organizations that scored quite low, but they may have asked for a higher amount, and therefore they are receiving a higher amount than some organizations that scored higher. If you look at the last two examples or the last two organizations, you'll see that clearly. So for that, I prefer the tier system.
Thank you.
Well, as you can see, my scores, I scored everyone pretty high. I'm going to disagree with my fellow counselors. I prefer the proportional just to give, seems like, I know only 2 don't get funded during the tier system, but even though I think that most people, most organizations do get some funding, what they were asking for on the proportional option.
I know Councilor Jacobs wasn't here to hear them, but you saw, and you were here last year, maybe?
Yeah, so my perspective is, given how the process works, the tier system is where I would put, where I'm falling is based off how it was ranked by counselors, and then that would dictate the funding versus the proportional system.
Yeah, I do like seeing some people that we mostly feel full funding. It's nice to be able to full fund some of these because we really feel strongly about them. Councilor LaFriend?
Sure. Sure. So I'm kind of torn, to be honest. I think there's merit, and I think all are worthy of something. So in that sense, proportional, but I do understand the ranking part, and I'm happy to, I'm sure you are as well, to submit scores.
Sure.
If that would help. You're trying to avoid it.
The reason why I skipped was because I didn't have enough time from when I came back to be able to put the proper emphasis on it. So the deadline was quicker than what I had realized. So I asked to skip this time so that
now I'm just gonna look in the middle. Is there a way to do something that's in the middle without changing it too much or making it really convoluted, to where the ones that are still fully funded are fully funded, and the ones that are getting very, very little get some? But to do that, well,
We would have
no,
to- we'd
because
have to redo the process.
the top tier ones don't get their full, you're gonna be taking away from some others.
Can you remind us, what does it say in the program, like language itself? Does it talk about specifically how we are scoring?
No, that's left more, just like programmatic detail.
Okay.
It allows us to be more flexible because this system that I think is kind of the way to go is different than what you all have been used to in previous years. So it's not baked into the program.
I like how it's all of us and not just me giving out my money separately and someone else giving theirs, because what I would do is I would see someone who's already fully funded, I'd give my money somewhere else. Or they got more than I would have thought, so then I kind of steer to someone else.
Right. The order you all rank them should not really play a role in how this gets sorted out.
And the
See.
other thing, I'm sorry, the other thing I was like, and I would call, for example, I'm a huge supporter of Amani, let's just take, because they scored the highest. And I believe that they said, they had other funding. So this was, we do fund them every year. I'm a huge supporter, but I'm sure that they would like to share the pot, but that's just me.
They tied with 2 others, all had the same 4.4. And so,
They're actually losing funding this year too, as a result of some things.
well, that's why I think too, I think that's why the CAT team is on there, because they've lost funds. They would not normally have come and asked. A lot of them are probably losing money, or their $1 million projects and,
You all pitch in,
yeah.
fund everyone.
Some that we fund in other ways. Some of them we do have funding for other things, and I'm glad we're keeping it separate, because we do keep it separate. Like with the senior center, we do fund them a little bit for other stuff, and this is a completely separate item. Same with the library. We've done some stuff for other events. This is a completely separate one.
Joe, we've got Kim. right here.
Kim, sorry. Thanks, NJ.
Yeah, so NJ, I presume, the choice that we make around kind of which funding system we go with is the one that we'll continue to use for years to come. Is that correct? Like,
It could be. I mean, I think that's up to all of you. The only thing I'll say to that is that every year the math is going to math a little differently. And like I mentioned, you sort of have to put the system together that's going to add up to the amount of money that we have.
Right.
And so it could look different every year, but yeah, that's all I'll say. But it's up to you all if you want me to just present one of these systems next year.
yeah, I guess my only concern with going with the proportional system number 2 is, are we setting a precedent that no matter what, if you submit an application, you're getting some level of funding?
Right.
Again, on that one, Kim, I think if 4 of us say 0, then no, you would not be considered. Something to that stipulation where there was, if half of us gave it a 0, then they were out completely and not considered.
And not a lot of zeros were given out.
Yeah.
No application had more than
I
one.
think that's what we did last year. We voted on them first, yes or no, to be considered. And if 4 of them got a yes, then it was considered. The other ones that didn't, they were out completely. I mean,
Proportional, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
no, go ahead.
Just point of clarification, even in the proportional system, check.
Sure.
Data scientist. Even if there were 3 zeros or 4 zeros placed in a proportional system, wouldn't they still receive something?
Yeah, yes, if you let it do the average, but I would just take it out of the
Gotcha.
because in the program guidelines, it does say if a majority say it's ineligible, it's not eligible.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if it, yeah,
Just like,
Now, keep in mind, if we get our 2 more columns in there, these
Those
numbers could
numbers will
change
change.
appreciably.
Those numbers
Yeah.
will change.
Yeah. So,
we're like Counselor Holmes, that you gave, let's say 2 to somebody, they may not get funding, but you did put in their modest funding preferred. So in your mind, you wanted to fund something and now they're not. I know you're going with an average. I mean, we all wanted some funding for Spring Lake except for 1. So now with the tier, there's none. And I'm fine with it. I'm fine with whichever we decide. I'm glad we have this money to give. Not a lot of people do. These are extras. It's nice to be able to help out, but
Could we go around one more time and check where counselors lie? Are we tier 1 or tier 2? Because maybe.
well, I think it was basically a 4 to a 3, and the 3s were all made. I could go either way, at least in mine. I'll go with whatever the vote is going to
I
be.
go proportional. Just for me, it just seems more equitable throughout the all organizations.
I think that's what Marissa was asking, is which one?
We all,
So
where is
hold
everyone?
up a 1 or a 2 for what you are. So
Tier 1 or tier 2?
I've got a 1 finger up.
Kim, are you tier 1?
I'm at tier 1. I guess I would ask just one more thing as well. If we pick a system, are we allowed to rescore? Because I was also under the impression like I could only use 1 5 for to give someone full funding, and other people gave more 5s, which kind of weighted things. And so I think we also need some uniformity around how many of each value you can use potentially, or score at 1 to 16 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm a
The
1.
mayor-
For
mayor
the allocation process, I'm a 1.
I definitely feel if everybody gave a 5, then they should get full funding. But if nobody got all 5s, yet we're giving 3 full funding.
Well, that's before we get our next 2 columns, so.
Yeah, but I mean, some of those zeros got 5s by other counselors. They're kind of all over the place on some of them. Scores.
Nobody even got 4 5s. I mean, yeah, if the 2 more columns, you might get to 4 5s,
Well,
which is the
we've got
majority.
potential over here.
Maybe we stick to whole numbers too, Mr. Mayor.
Stick the whole.
The 0.5s are
3.8.
Yes, yes, Mr. Mayor. Whole numbers, please.
Between three.
So far, it's 3
Well, it's 4-3, I think. Yeah, I think Marissa said 1 and
One.
Andrew said
1,
2.
4. Okay, 4 to 3.
And
And I'm just fine. I'm just trying to think of anything I can offer that's different that we all come together on the same one.
I mean, you brought up a good point. They might, this would look pretty different with 2 more columns. Yeah.
Well-
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the difference between 5 and 6 is much less significant than 3 and 4. You know, the more you get in, the more, or the less, you
Can I
know.
ask, the 3 full funding ones, would you have been pretty full funded on those? Amani,
Yeah.
library,
And community club.
and the community club.
Well, now I know that they would be full.
If you would have full funded them
Yeah.
too. then
That's
I
the
would
other
say-
thing is you all didn't see each other's scores.
Yeah.
Right,
Now there's.
yeah, now that we have.
Community club would have had 5 full fundings. Public library would have had 6 full fundings.
Kiwanis probably would get 5.
And, yeah, Amani would have got probably 4, so over the majority. So I'm fine. If someone wanted to make a motion to approve one, we could vote.
Mr. Mayor,
Are we, but we would be 4-4 if anyone,
We don't have 8 people. It's 4-3.
Andrew hasn't.
But I
Yeah,
think he's counting.
I counted him as a 3.
Oh, yeah.
Or 5, we don't need his vote. I mean, it's. We already have 4 people that have.
Oh,
went
no,
tier
no,
one.
yeah,
You got the majority.
Even if
Including
we-
me.
yeah.
Including me.
So,
Okay.
giving him the
Okay.
ability to go with the
Right.
majority.
Doesn't matter, so we got 4.
And I'd love to see a unanimous decision here so that it is, we're all supportive. Kim,
Yeah, so regardless of which funding method, do we get the chance to rescore so that we're all using the same scoring method?
Take over? I can take over?
You know, for example, like I said, I only used 1.5 because that I thought was kind of the,
I think though, being that if you're going tier 1 and you had some more 5s, that's just gonna make that even stronger.
is that
Is it-
what, sorry, it's hard to track. Is that where the majority consensus?
Yeah.
Majority is going? Okay.
Yeah.
Is it gonna influence the scores, Kim, if you were to change to 5s? From what you can tell?
I would have listed, like, I think I had said, what was I would have added like full funding to Amani Center along with the library. Not too many, but I would have just, yeah,
Yeah,
elected full funding for a few others.
the community club,
Yeah.
maybe, because they're the one that's the other full funded one.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so probably wouldn't actually, Tyler, it probably wouldn't have changed the outcome. Yeah.
We'll just verify that next year.
Okay.
You can have multiple 5s, but obviously if you do all 5s, it's gonna make it very difficult.
Right.
That'll be, okay. Joel, you were saying,
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve tier 1.
have a motion to approve tier 1 funding in our 2025 CEP program.
With the addition of 2 more columns.
Oh,
With,
The completion of.
With the completion of our scoring rubric.
okay, any second?
Second.
Second by Council President Miller. All those in favor, any discussion?
Can I ask a point
Yeah.
of clarification? Joel, what do you mean by that? Do you want them to score it? Do you want to just approve the system and then the numbers will be what the numbers will be? Is that what you're?
No, I think that we want everybody to score. So including our 2 additional columns.
You just want public record of our
Right.
scores.
you want public record.
Do you want it to change what's in here for allocations?
It may not, but it probably will.
So your motion is to approve a system then?
Right.
And then the numbers will be what they are, and then I will send it back.
Yep.
Then if we're gonna do that, Kim should be allowed to change her percent too.
That's
true.
where this becomes like, are we
Yeah.
gonna redo the
Redo.
whole,
Sounds like
Thing?
we're already done.
be redoing the whole scoring?
What I
No,
would
just you
recommend
guys
is,
agree.
what I recommend then, and change it, but if she wants to change and you submit it, we're voting on the system. You'll tell us the final numbers. We'll put it in a consent agenda next time with no, I mean, we'll see the results in a couple days. We'll, if there's nobody have a problem with that, it will go in a consent agenda. So basically, if nothing changes enough for us to pull it off and talk about it,
Okay.
it will just be approved.
Okay. If I could
That's
get
fair.
scores by the end of the week, that'd be great.
That sound okay, Counselor Holmes?
Yep.
Okay, so we do have a first and a second to accept tier number 1 system scoring. Seeing no more discussion, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye.
I,
Opposed? Did you want to vote, Andrew? Do you have one way or the other?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, so motion carries to go a tier 1 system with, he'll get some new numbers in, and if there's any changes, he'll adjust those. Send it out. When would the public see that? Any adjustments?
Oh, just a week before the next
Yeah,
meeting.
you'll put it out on our website. Here's our CP.
It'll be in the packet,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Okay. Number 4, we've got, worked on this one. I wasn't sure the titling necessarily, so I'll try to explain it. Measuring city success to help inform future city managers' reviews. We've discussed this at nauseum, or we've talked about it for a couple of years now. We brought this up, obviously, in evaluations with our prior city manager, and we got really deep into it after a couple evaluations, and then we kind of just left it, and we never formalized anything new. So when we bring in a new city manager, I'm kind of wondering what plan are we going with as ways of future reviews. We brought in a 360. It was the first time we had done that. So I just wanted to discuss this a little more. We had mentioned it at the last meeting that maybe we would look at doing something in the next July, August timeframe. But I wanted to talk about it and get a sense from the council, a direction that we need to go to figure this out. Not what are we going to do, but how do we figure this out? Do we form a 2-person committee to bring some plans, get all of our feedback and come with some ideas that we can discuss and vote on an evaluation process, whether that inquires, reports from our stakeholders and other collaboration groups that we work with, or do we have a work session where we all have, talk for an hour or even a special meeting and we go over this and we fix this? I've looked at one city of Staten's evaluation. They've had it for 11 years. It looks like they passed it in 14, no changes. So, I mean, I think it's time we get something done. One, it helps Ben identify what we're looking for and how we want him to achieve. And we're not going to be making changes and talking about it all the time. So that's kind of why I wanted to discuss. And I think, Kim, you wanted to maybe present something as well.
Yeah, nothing in terms of a formal presentation. I think you summed it up pretty well. I mean, we're going to be going on, I will be going on the 3rd time doing some sort of evaluation for a city manager whenever we do this formally. And each time it has not felt like we've had a meaningful tool for either council to provide good feedback or for us to gather good information around performance. And so I don't want to be stuck in that position again when we wind up doing this evaluation, if that's kind of, closer into the spring when we talk about compensation review, or if we want to do that mid-cycle so that we can offer information and feedback, so there's time to integrate that information into performance. So I guess that's what I kind of challenge this council to consider. What is it we want to be measuring and how do we want to measure it? And I did get a chance to meet with Ben last week and talked about, I think there's a few different ways that we can go about this. We can kind of go about it in, the more traditional way that we have, using a form There's the 360 as an option. The other option we talked about, which I think we should also consider is, maybe the city manager's review is directly tied to overall success of city performance. And then how do we measure that, right? And so we started talking about the goals, and then the goals have objectives. But I don't think this council is even really clear yet on how we're defining success for each of those objectives. Like, how are we operationalizing the goals and objectives? And if we, got Ben to put forward how the city is going about that, kind of like 3 highlights. What does success look like for, an objective? And then we can say, like, did we hit that mark? Did we not hit that mark? Why didn't we hit that mark? Is that a tool we could use? So I think there are a few ways to go about this, and I just don't want to get into a place that we're doing something that's not meaningful for us or Ben in the future. So.
Thank you. Councilor Santiago.
I agree with Councilor Holmes that it feels like the last few city manager reviews, it was like we really didn't have tools. And sometimes I recall that we're filling out this form and they're asking questions that we don't know because we're not here on a daily basis, right? So I know that last time when I think we worked on a description of what city manager duties, and Ben has a contract. So wouldn't it be what's in the contract? Is that
comment?
Yeah.
Marissa, are you, sorry, I didn't know if you were in line.
Yep.
So, yeah, going back 2 years prior, and this came up with City Manager Raines too, is the prior way of doing the performance evaluations was really difficult because it was asking a lot of questions that we didn't have a consistent observation of or any observation whatsoever. And so we were being asked to, rate on these things that really it was unfair to the city manager too. I think that all employees should be evaluated on the job duties that were in the job description when they applied. And of course, if anything's been formally amended since then, those duties as well. But rating them on anything other than the job duties that they signed up for when they applied for the job, I think is unfair. And that is what we should squarely be rating an employee on, is what they were hired to do.
Okay, looking at this one from state, it looks a lot like ours, but I mean, it is broke down on various items that look like it comes from the job description and their job duties. And I think you're right. We need to pick out, like Kim said, how do we measure the success of the city and how it relates to how our city manager is doing their job, and find a way to rate that. I also have questions though on the policies, because we had mentioned, we had brought this up the first time, a 360 with city manager Raines. And so we tried, we had talked about asking fire and PUD and different groups and how do we all work with the city. And we settled on staff department heads because we wanted some feedback. I also want to see something maybe in the evaluation, an ability to gather feedback maybe throughout the year. So we don't wait till the very end of the year and then all of a sudden we're ranking them on something comes up at the end that he didn't have a chance to maybe address, or we don't have all the information on. So I was looking at ways, because we had talked about a 360 coming up, but his review isn't until next spring. So were we looking at getting something 6 months in to where it's just a heat check of what's going on and feeling how it's going, so that if there's anything that needs to be addressed, he's got plenty of time to address them before an evaluation comes up, so that 360 or a heat check from staff or other departments doesn't come into play right directly at an evaluation time when it could be a little biased. So I'm just kind of looking for direction on how do we want to come up with something.
Well, can we level set just really quickly here about what an evaluation is intended for? And that is to give constructive feedback and get an employee, regardless of who it is, on the track that we want to see them on. It's not designed to, be a reprimand. It's to give positive, hopefully positive constructive feedback and allow growth and positiveness, not a negative.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
So
Council.
I've got one point here, so maybe we should step back a little bit. Did everybody read that article from Scott Lazenby on employee evaluations?
A little bit of it.
Okay, if you didn't read that, the context there is really important. And Scott is a very reputable city manager, now professor at PSU. And he knows what he's talking about. So if you haven't read that, I really suggest you do that before we take any other new steps. But personally, my view is that a 360 is only needed if you look at a city manager and you see a punch list of what he's supposed to be doing and he's not performing. So we it's our responsibility to know what the city manager is doing. And so if he's not meeting his requirements, then a 360 is called for. But unless the city man, unless you have specified concrete details of what he's not doing properly, then really it's counterproductive and it's harmful to everybody. And it's a kind of a mindless repetition of going nowhere.
Mr. Mayor.
Counselor Jacobs.
So I know there's a lot of different opinions about 360s and when to use them and how organizations use them and don't. And I think they have their place, but I don't think we're at that point yet, personally. I think one thing I'd like to sort of level set for all of us is a 360 really should not be the first time that an employee is hearing where they're doing well and where they need to improve. How we build positive employee relationships is by providing feedback in the moment and having very kind, fact-based conversations with one another. So if there is some type of behavior or there's some lack of performance, as easy as it is to say, wow, great job doing XYZ, you really did a wonderful job, we need to be able to do the converse, which is to have a difficult conversation. And I think it's important that when we hear or see of performance that is not in line with what our expectations are, which are outlined in the job description, that we need to have that difficult conversation and approach it with good intention and share what was the situation, what was the behavior we observed, and what was the impact, and allow that individual to respond. We need to do that as a first step. That's what will help build positive relationship and trust. The 360, I think we're not there. I think there's some things that maybe each of us want to give some feedback. And I don't think we know how to do that. But I think this is where we need to do it, where we have a one-on-one conversation. Again, assume positive intent and come in and just be very fact-based. To the point of, to fast forward, so I think that's what needs to happen whenever, like that should be feedback, should be ongoing. It should be positive and constructive. And if you would like, I would be happy to take us through like how to do feedback. I'm trained in how to deliver feedback. We can do some coaching sessions back and forth. As it relates to the annual review, the whole purpose at this point, how businesses have evolved, and I suspect government as well, is that the annual review should be no surprises. You should know what is going to show up on your annual review before you get there, because you're having these touch points. Typically, how these touch points happen is maybe through having standard meetings. So I would assume that I can share with, like I have a standing biweekly meeting with my boss and we talk about the projects, and then we talk about my career development, and we talk about whatever else. And she's available for me to give feedback. So it's creating the spaces. So I would assume that all the managers that are in city are having standing meetings with their direct report to create this environment. That is what needs to happen, if it's not already, but that's what will help create this environment of feedback. Because again, the whole point of an annual review is not to be surprised. We should all know where we stand as we're moving through the year. So I would encourage all of us to let's start there before saying we need to develop a 360 review. I think we'll get there, but I think we're going to need a little bit more time in just practicing sharing feedback to help one another.
Counselor Holmes, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, so I think what Counselor Jacob points out is really kind of at the heart of the issue. We need that platform for offering the feedback, right? And then we can figure out, maybe down the road what the appropriate tools are. I guess procedurally, would that be like, would we just schedule executive sessions with Ben like once a quarter so we're all there? Because I also don't want to have a situation where individually as counselors, we're offering feedback, counselors may feel very strongly one way or the other. I feel like that since we are a governing body, that probably should be all addressed in kind of one setting that we're all together.
That I don't know.
That is what I was going to bring up to you, is that is a great model for the private sector. But what I have ran into in the past is we have no authority as an individual counselor. And then it creates a situation for the city manager where our expectations by one person shared by the entire governing body, because that's where we get our power and that's where the city manager actually gets their direction from. So if we are going to do it that way, I think Kim hit the nail on the head there, that we still do need to have an executive session, because again, we have no unilateral authority. And I don't want to create confusion or to the city manager. There needs to be one voice through consensus to the city manager. That's our form of government. That's our charter.
And I just want to clarify, everybody's mentioned 360, but I think we were talking about what form in order to evaluate. And so maybe everybody has a different idea of what a 360 is. And I'm going to ask you, the expert, if you can just briefly tell us what your thoughts on the 360, because some people think, oh, it's just an evaluation. And some I'm hearing it's like, no, it's like, if you're really messing up on your job, this is what it is. So is it an evaluation, or is it really only when you know that they're not doing their job, then you have proof? So
360s are supposed to be used regardless of what is happening in the environment.
they are and they're not, I'm sorry.
Regardless of
Regardless.
whether it's strong performance or it's mediocre performance or it's poor performance. It is not used, though. You have to be careful. They should not be weaponized. So it should be agreed upon that whether it's an annual thing or biannual, whatever the case may be, you agree upon the cadence. And then that is just a piece of information that you're gathering themes from on how an individual is showing up with their staff and or other stakeholders they work with.
I'm looking at it is there's several questions on our evaluation form that are asking about how relations with staff, or rate the effectiveness of the city administrator dealing with the citizens, the public, governmental agencies, business, and nonprofits. How do I know how he's reacting how he's acting with them, unless I don't go out and ask them? I get feedback. It says, how do you work with the staff? Responds to employee suggestions and concerns. How am I supposed to put an evaluation on that if I don't know, unless these are things he brings to us so we can then revalue? Or can I talk to staff? Can I see feedback? Is there any ways? Because a lot of these questions might be things that we don't see on a day-to-day level, but that his staff does.
So maybe what might be helpful is, maybe if we put like a small group together and like I'd be willing to volunteer to like go talk to LOC and say, here's what we're trying to do and here's what we want to do and what can we do? Like what's current practice? Because what I don't want to do is put Ben in the middle here and have like, let us do our research and let us come back and then we can have a sharing session.
I
And
definitely-
put something so that we can kind of work from.
I'm looking at something to try to help make Ben successful and help and
Right.
do it in a positive way that he can work with at the same time that we feel comfortable with. And that if we are going out for information, it's information that's going to help us. It's not going to, like
Right.
you said, weaponize, it's not going to hurt. It's actually useful. Again, every city, 240, some of them do all these different way and there's a lot of ways it's done. And so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And I think we just need to kind of come up with something that we all feel allow us to
Joe, I think
achieve.
you made an important point. We don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And using, if Staten is a model that Loc recommends, maybe we could get you could get 3 models that Loc recommends, and then use that and then have that. Yeah, but you know, there's no urgency here. It was just 2 months ago when we went through the checkbox and we gave Ben a raise and so forth. So this isn't urgent. You know, sometime, you know, when it's convenient, we'll convene. But let's get our ducks in a row first.
I would also, I echo what Counselor Haugen is saying. I think getting back though to the point of what is the appropriate platform for us to be able to provide feedback based off observations. So I think, are we, the 2 questions that run through my mind, as Counselor Miller put, like, maybe in the private sector, it's okay if I were to schedule a meeting with you, Ben, one-on-one and say, hey, I have some feedback I'd like to share with you. But maybe in government, that's not okay because I'm one of 7. But I guess where I get stuck is that if I have witnessed and observed something that I want to bring to Ben that none of you have seen, but it's not up to standard, I'm trying to understand, why would the rest of you need to be a part of that conversation?
Because we all need to be aware of it. That's been part of our team rules forever. Is the information to one counselor is supposed to be known by all. the
So could
others.
we could it be a debrief after, or like, hey, I'm gonna go have a feedback session with Ben? I guess I'm just trying to figure out, like, even from the human element perspective, having 7 people to give one person feedback, that is overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're
That's a big
trying to,
government.
we're trying to make this like, right, like the whole point is to like build a relationship and to build trust and to make people feel successful. But to do that in okay, we're going into executive session and we're gonna have this like 7 against 1, I would be intimidated and I would probably not sleep the night. So I'm just curious, like, what is, and maybe that's the research I need to go do and
Well,
figure
our
out.
team agreement does state, council shall, or information available to one council member will be available to all in a timely manner regarding council meetings and doing our business.
Okay.
But like if you have an issue that, and then a lot of the things, if there's issues, you handle them, and if they aren't handled correctly, then they come to me or the
Right.
council. But if there is something that one individual counselor can address, then
Yeah, we're
You probably need to address it.
We're 7 different people, you know, and so we're obviously gonna have different views and perspectives on things. And so, you know, I'm absolutely with Marissa.
Yeah.
Let's not make this cumbersome and difficult. Let's just go. And I have an issue with what you're doing with the parking, you know, with
With this charging station.
charging station. Yeah. So, this doesn't have to take up everybody else's time. I can just go on there because I have an issue with that. So I can go and talk to Ben or NJ and say, hey, what's the deal on this?
obviously, if you then don't feel that it's something's being rectified, then you bring it to the council to get the support of others.
Right.
Right.
Kim, I was just gonna ask, Marissa had brought up, I mean, the two that I've looked at is either we discuss this in a work section where we come with stuff, we do some homework, we come with a plan and we look at some things and then we propose something and then an open meeting, we vote on it. Or Kim and like Marissa could, if you were to, would you have time to be able to get all of our feedback on what we're looking for, what we're wanting, gather some information and come back and propose something to us, present to us?
Sure. I think
mean-
Kim and I can work together and,
I'm open to
you
what.
know,
other-
as we build towards the future,
Andy
absolutely.
wants to volunteer too.
If we do this, keep this where one-on-one can happen, I think that we do need to review the charter because it's not compatible with the charter. So we need to make sure that we're all in line with at what point we go one-on-one and what point it is brought to all council.
So can you point out for me where in the
Not
charter?
right
that-
now, but I can
I-
certainly.
So the charter specifically talks about the separation of the city manager, his duties, and what those roles are. Then you get into our municipal code, which is section 2.04, and that's where it lays out council rules and the council meetings. And it goes into, in section 40, 50, 60, and 70, kind of talk about respecting the role of the city manager and not interfering, not causing, not interfering, undermining. So I mean, yes and no. It really, where we really come into an issue is when a counselor has maybe a personal passion about something and they really want to see something change. And that starts coming into not just information, but it's more of a, you need to do this where you're directing. And that yes, the municipal code and the charter says, no, the council as a whole is who directs me. But I don't think it precludes the ability to have conversations of, hey, I noticed this, I want to get information, because you might just be trying to get information. Maybe it is an issue, maybe it is an issue. There's more to the story behind there. It really comes an issue when those boundaries aren't respected. So yeah.
I would have us look then, because yes, counselors shall have the authority to only act as part of the council and shall not have individual authority to bind the city or direct the actions of city officers and employees. So I want to then just clarify what is, this binding them. I mean, if it's just informational, and is there things that, one-on-one can be beneficial and they don't have to. I'd like to make sure we're doing that correctly. We also can vote if it is about a park. We can vote for one of us to be the spokesperson for you and work with you on an individual thing, representing all of us if we have voted on it. But I'd like to know, because I talk to you a lot one-on-one, and I want to be able to know what can we talk about that I don't have to incorporate the rest of the council on. I mean,
I'm very specific in talking about like where I'm focused is I want to be able to help you grow and develop.
Right.
And I want to be able to give you positive as well as constructive feedback that will benefit your growth. That's what it is.
Right.
It's not about, I'm not trying to do any of those other things. I just want to say, hey.
Mr. Mayor.
yes, it's comfortable.
So I mean, I've heard this brought up a couple of times. I think there's a lot of value in more frequent check-ins, and I think Kim mentioned quarterly executive sessions. I feel like you could do that through that process, unless there's reasons to have more frequent feedback than every
I would
few
have to
months.
look at the executive session rules and what you can discuss and why.
Okay.
I mean, it has to be tied to something, either performance or evaluation. I mean, there's things you can't just meet in public, in private, just so we can talk.
Well, but they'd be scheduled every year. There's 4 of them, and it's a forum, and we would have feedback from department heads. I think there's a lot of value too in department heads giving more frequent feedback throughout the year. They have the pulse of their departments, and I think things would trickle up if
I
they
would
were.
like, if you guys are working on something, then yeah, I also look at, you had talked about through your other they're doing a 360 through, other things. And you're working with your staff all the time, asking them, is there a way we can test Ben he has to kind of show us that, yeah, I've worked with staff and I'm addressing concerns, or I have quarterly meetings where they actually come in and tell me their concerns and things that I need to work on. I mean, let him kind of show us what he's doing.
Is there a reason why we can't get more check-ins with?
No, I'm not sure. I think we need to be have a real specific, I mean, again, I'm not saying they do, our staff is great, but they can, I don't know, they're getting their feedback. Some of them won't, they will not give feedback. They just will not participate in feedback to us about their boss. I've seen it here in other places, and we see it online with the mayors. And so are you getting good, honest information that's helpful? If you do it maybe as anonymous and you're doing it as a general overall feeling and wellness of how is it going, and you're getting some feedback, and if things come up, then you address them and you bring it up. We've done a lot of talking. I'll let Jeanette, but then I'd like to maybe hear from Ben as well. And you've seen a lot of different cities and you've seen what's been successful.
I just wanted not to create what we've had this discussion before, not just with Ben, but with Commander Rains. And what has come up sometimes, if we talk to department heads and staff, they feel like council creates a toxic environment. You got to be careful on that, because I don't know, I don't want to create a toxic environment. So how can we get that information, that feedback, without causing that, a toxic environment?
And there's a quick solution to this. If everybody will read the special districts, there's in your mailbox, Ben sent out today, the one I requested here a couple of weeks back, from North Bend. It was a best practices for boards and overseeing a city manager or an executive. And it's invaluable to look at this. And it takes you 10, 15 minutes to go through that. And that'll provide a foundation, I think, going forward. And then we weave in some of the good stuff we've talked about tonight. But oh, by the way, I think you might need to resend that PDF, because I tried to open it, it wouldn't open. Yeah. And
Okay, I'll resend it then. I'll look at it.
But that's very useful to take a look at that.
Just real quick, so to Andrew's point, for executive section 192.6602I, it says to review and evaluate the employment-related performance of the chief executive officer or any public body, a public officer, employee, or staff member who does not request an open hearing. So it's even to review.
So I'd like to be able to then, is that quarterly and we can just discuss, or does it have to have a formal review? Because obviously whoever that is then could request it in a public hearing if they so see. But I mean, I like that. I like us to be able to, I want to get all of your feedback and empower all of us to have a one voice when we do talk. But does it always have to be an open session? Because do we owe that?
And I'm just going to stipulate here again, timing is everything. So if we're just going to wait once a quarter and something happened 3 months earlier and we're just now bringing it up, it's not impactful.
Yeah.
And in fact, the situation might even get worse. So to address it in the moment is really key to changing behavior, building positive relationships, and building trust.
You kind of think about when you were raising your kids. If you push it off for 2 months before you brought it to their attention, it'd be totally useless. Yeah.
Councilor Holmes?
Yeah, I mean, so I think we're starting to identify perhaps a combination of tools that we'll want to be using. I think we want to look at, to Councilor Jacobs' point, more immediate feedback mechanism. I think having a regular check-in opportunity that the full council can participate in and provide constructive and positive feedback to Ben is probably also beneficial. And then, yeah, I think starting with the League of Oregon Cities to see if there are any other kind of formal or standardized tools that have been successfully used in cities that we could also consider might be valuable. So,
Yeah. No, I think that's good if you can get that information, because I mean, I do see Ben quite a bit because of all the things we're involved in, and you guys don't get to see that sometimes, and I can't let you know every time how he was at a CET meeting or what he did to help here, and so I think that'd be good. If you guys can kind of get some of our feedback, your understanding kind of where we're all coming from, what we would like to see, ask us more questions. Obviously, we're just gathering information. We're not, make sure we don't break any public meeting rules. You guys can get together and then present something of, even if it isn't a work session, come and present what you have. Here's a couple options. Let's tweak it. What do you think will work so we can give Ben the best, most help possible? And it might include that, okay, if you have an instance where something just came up, here's what we recommend you do. And then if that doesn't seem to work, here's the next step. Is that a plan going forward?
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question? So just something you said, I see Ben and I see him and, in other places, other spaces. And so as we evaluate or do this quarterly updates, it'd be great. It's good that we do it as a whole, to the point, like, yes, you can get immediate feedback individual to Ben, but as a whole, you have stories, you've seen something he's done, I've seen something he's done. So as we're evaluating his performance, and not all of us have seen, him doing community outreach. Well, you have, I have, and so forth. So then we can rely on each other's eyes. And so even though individually we don't see that, maybe as a whole we have completed that task. So I think
That's
a
where
good
you
idea.
answer a question as a group and you
Right.
put down all your things, and then we all listen, and then we score it
Correct.
based on a agreement on us all. I don't know if we really got accomplished anything, but I feel like I'm getting there. I want to put this to bed and not have to deal with it for 10 more years, right, Susan? But I'm still learning. We're getting a lot of stuff from the community coming up to us, and I'm always like, what am I supposed to do with that? Do I talk to the police? Do I go to Ben? Do I just say, oh, thanks? Sometimes it's a citizen. Sometimes it's a staff member, and it's just in passing. And I remembered when we were bringing up policy about complaints and issues, and we never finished it. It was right at the beginning of my term. And I just want to make sure that we are following the proper procedures and policies. And, because I think everything is really good and I want to keep it that way. And again, I think 99% of everything is great, and we're always trying to work on that 1% that we can improve on and do better. And so there's nothing vindictive or anything mean. I want to make sure we give you the support you need to be successful. And so you've heard all of us. Do you have anything before we end this?
Yeah, just to add to that, along with what a lot of things were said here, that it's super important to remember that the tone is set from the top. The words that you say, the way that we do things, how that we go about doing anything, it does affect my ability to perform. It does affect my staff's ability to perform. In the public field, there's a lot of potential interference areas that can cause a lot of interference, or that undermines people's ability to supervise or to do what they're supposed to, usually with good intent. It's not usually that counselors are trying to do anything malicious, but it's important that we continue, as we have these conversations, as we look at structure, to remember there is that structure, because it can create inadvertently a toxic environment, as Jeanette had mentioned. If things, it depends on how this goes. So like when we're getting feedback from citizens, is the assumption that staff is wrong right off the bat, or is the assumption that we have a really good staff, they do a lot of good things, they're overworked, they're going to get back to you, and there's going to be that amount of trust to build that culture of, as Marissa mentioned, that trust back and forth? Or is this, we need to dig into this and get to the root of this, and now all of a sudden we have managers looking into stuff when something could be solved really easy by going through a normal process? And you know, talking about complaints. So there is a way we can go about those things. And it's the same thing with the review process, with working with me. There is a structure. The manager council form of government was set up for transparency. It was for accountability. It was also to help prevent corruption. I mean, it originally was a mayor system, and there was a lot of corruption. That's why they came up with, not that our mayor is corrupt, but just in that type of form of government, there was a lot of corruption that they found with that. And so they came up with that professional separation so that people can work on operations, councils can work on the overall. And yes, as a council, sometimes you have to get a little bit further if there's some high priority things. But you know, once again, what's that tone? Is it every little thing, or is it really only after things have really escalated that we need further follow up? And it really, so as we're going through all of this, my biggest encouragement is just to remember the tone from the top of how we are looking at things. When I came in, there was a certain tone that I tried to change, and I do feel, and Chris could maybe speak to that as well, that we've come leaps and bounds to where there's a different culture inside how the staff feel inside City Hall, or even in the police department, where there's a lot more excitement and ability for people to perform and to innovate and to do their best, to give their ability to manage the right way without too much interference. But yeah, that would, I guess, would be the biggest thing, is to remember this, that there is a framework that is out there on purpose. There is a way to go about doing it. If we have the right tone and that right trust and that right culture build, it works seamlessly. It's when we start crossing over those things that things really become a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I've always questioned my role, where is that line? And not to micromanage you or, your staff, and have these rules. And because we're a small community and we all see each other all the time, we get along, it's sometimes hard to sometimes stick to those, but we need to, we need to not dive down rabbit holes that we don't need to, or get involved in stuff with your city, your staff. You do it, and we trust in you. And if we have an issue, we'll talk to you. Is there any more discussion before we move on?
One last comment. So I did do quarterly reviews in my last city. I mean, that was something I did recommend, even because I do feel, in addition to on-the-spot feedback, I think it's important to have that. Once again, with on-the-spot feedback, we're limited because it's not a direction. It's, I'm trying to help you. I'm giving you feedback. Let's work together. And then I have to take that with the totality of the situation until there's other information from the whole council. One recommendation, and I've mentioned this before, is in those reviews, I always recommend it's a two-sided review, not just for the city manager, but an opportunity for the council to also be able to self-assess. And we can have these conversations about what's going well, what's not, what things are getting in the way. It just provides a little bit more of that. We're here to work as a team. Let's have difficult conversations if needed. But
are you able to do that in executive session?
Yeah,
Okay,
you're
so
a public official as well, and it is, as long as it stays performance related, not about city specific things. Like, we can't go over and start changing and say, well, let's change our goals here. Let's talk about those goals. It's really, how is the council performing in their role? And we have to stick, just like with mine, it has to be staying within that realm of what the executive session is allowed. But yeah, that's for any public official, elected or.
Maybe something to look at too. Then obviously, if it's something needs to be addressed, you do it now, because you don't want to bring something up 3 months later. But the smaller things that you can address, and then maybe at that quarterly, you can talk about the whole process. Here's what we did 3 months ago. Here's what we've done since, and everything's great. I want to be able to give you feedback, good, bad, and indifferent, so it will help you. Because I trust that, just like me, I'll take good, bad, indifferent feedback, because I want to improve and get better. And I want you to enjoy your job. I want your staff to enjoy it. So I'm assuming you want to hear everything so you can do a good job, and trust that. Okay, anything else? Kim?
Yeah, I mean, so I think we've made a lot of good progress tonight, and I'm really pleased. And I would say, if we're generally supportive of perhaps a quarterly check-in, as Ben, has said it worked really well in his last position, I would suggest we go ahead and look at probably getting that scheduled at some point while Marissa and I look at other options and bring that to a work session and, get further council buy-in on that. If we think we're going to take kind of a multi-pronged approach here, just so we're not, if Marissa and I take potentially 2 months to gather information, bring it back, then we're not looking, okay, 3 months out from, doing that first quarterly review. Again, if we think it's all a productive thing to start to move forward on.
I think that sounds good.
Yeah, progress over perfection, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all.
I mean, I do
learning
really
together,
think we have
so.
time. I mean, in theory, because did we reset your review a year? I mean, yeah, so we have some time. I want to do it right. It's like the police department, they're doing it right. Slow, but doing it right. Is that good, Counselor Holmes? Okay, moving on. This is gonna take probably the next half hour. Discussion on canceling the July 7th, 2025 meeting. I understand, NJ, we had urban renewal stuff. Are we okay?
You all will just look at it on August 4th instead.
Yeah, there's no reason to, in anything that might be there, if you guys can move it up to the next one in June, to maybe have that a little bit bigger if we have to, but, what's everybody's feeling on the?
The urban renewal can't be June because one, we have the budget meeting for that. And then number two, EDC looks at those applications and that's on June 26th. So you'll beat them to the punch on that.
So if there's anything else little on the 7th that might be able to be moved up, think about, or push back to the next one in July. Does anybody have a motion to cancel, or do you really want to have, it is right after a holiday, so staff, everybody would have to have their reports out right before a holiday week, so. And if we have to, again, we're all good with special meetings. If something comes up and you got to have one the following week, we will have one. I will be out of the country, but you guys can have one. Do I have a motion to cancel July 7 meeting?
So moved.
Counselor Haugen,
Second.
second by Counselor Santiago. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Today is June 2nd. Farmers Market every Saturday, 9 to 2 p.m. June 16th, we do have an urban renewal meeting. Is that budget at 6:30 on June 16th, followed by city council meeting at 7. City offices are closed on June 19th for Juneteenth. At this point, we have a meeting on June 26th, EDC at noon, tentatively a planning commission at 7 p.m. Update, city manager Ben Bergner.
The one, I guess, first update there, I got an action alert. Just want to get the council's feedback if you wanted us to move forward with advocacy for this. League of Oregon City sent out a legislative action alert around SB 916B. This bill will allow striking employees to receive unemployment insurance benefits. Not only will the bill likely destabilize labor relations by reducing the risk of a strike for employees, but it will also be costly to cities. Employers made a good faith offer to negotiations that would allow the bill to move forward with a 3-week waiting period before striking workers became eligible for employment, but that was rejected. You probably likely got the rest of the email, so I'm not going to read the rest of it. So just really around that, if you're wanting us to just act on that or do nothing, is that important for the council? I'd be happy to put something together to send off to our state representative, or we can let the rest of the state keep handling on that one.
This is to support it.
This is to say no, we oppose,
Yeah, we
the League of
oppose.
Oregon Cities request was to oppose that. Feedback from the council would be if we support that opposing and if
I
we want
support
to.
how the league is proceeding forward.
Okay.
Yeah, is there a time frame? Is this coming up for vote or?
It just says promptly, this will be likely voted on Wednesday, so I'd have to get them some feedback tomorrow.
Yeah, we all support. So,
Okay. Nothing.
Kim Holmes, did you have something on that, Counselor Holmes?
Yeah, I was just gonna say legislative session ends on the 18th. So yeah, I'm not sure where the vote specifically was on this bill, but everything's got to be taken care of in short order here. So
Other than that, thank you for all those who came to the outdoor festival and volunteer time for that. I was able to come in the last. It seemed like there's a really good showing to the library and to JJ for putting that together. Also, Chris and his team, the council's been privy to updates on that, but they've been, as well as Susan, been pretty overloaded on some recent requests. They're working through those diligently. We're staying on top of those. I just wanted to give a appreciation for what they are doing, them and their staff, to get through that on top of the rest of everything else they're doing. It is a lot to take care of, and it's pretty tricky in some places. So other than that, nothing more at this time.
Thank you. Chief Llewellyn.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council President, councilors. There's a couple things that you've been already talked about. We did an outdoor festival. Wasn't expecting our police car to be so successful as an event out there. So I apologize also for Siren. I try to stop the kids from finding the button, but once the word was out, they actually killed a barrier on a patrol car. So we had to jump before we left. But it was a really good event. Just great seeing Scappoose turn out and just our local community members. In the next 2 weeks before the next city council meeting, we'll be helping out with the high school and with their efforts too, with the graduation coming up, and we'll also be participating with Grant Watts Career Field or Career Day, which I think is scheduled for, I believe, next Thursday. And with us too, our two new sergeants are working hard, hitting the ground running, doing really well there too as well. And code complaints are something that keeps coming to the office, which is great. So recently, just to bring up that we referenced a public comment from a couple of city council meetings ago. I talked to Sigrid Plus, which does our website now, and had a couple interactions with them and got a quote and things like that to hopefully update our system, just make it more streamlined. So continue to work on that. That's pretty much what I have right now. Pending questions from anybody in the audience. That's all I have. Thank you.
Sure, I'll have one soon, but not yet. Counselor Haugen.
Just like to thank Kim and Marissa for stepping forward to work on the evaluation framework for us. That's really positive. I would like to do a debrief of the Adventure Fest sometime here before the fades from our memory bank. So it doesn't have to take long. Just some observations that we made and so forth. I think that's helpful. And then June 7th graduation. Hope some folks can come. I'm going to try to get over there for the graduation. And I do hope we can give some kind of a recognition for the valedictorian and the salutatorians. And that's just, I would like I mentioned at the last meeting, that would be a nice thing to inaugurate, where we do something to acknowledge the excellence of their families and the students and their success at Scappoose High School. So
When's the next school board meeting? Next Monday?
no, the second. It would be the next.
Second Monday of every month.
Oh, yeah.
Next Monday. Okay.
Well, you want to promote our youth
Maybe
council?
we could talk. Maybe we could go and present them a certificate or thank you or something.
Yeah, we're working on that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor Jacob.
Yeah, I think I'm a little talked out. Chief, thank you for the increased presence. I've heard from community members when I'm out and about walking in the park, they're like so happy to see more police officers and responding to the Highway 30. Just leave it at that. And thank you, staff, for all the good work. Really appreciate it. I hope you all get to enjoy some time during the summer. That's all I got.
Thank you, Counselor Friends.
Yes, first I'd like to thank the Meisner family for this donation. As many of you guys know, my academic research area includes the benefits of green spaces and the health of communities and the physical, mental, and social health benefits of places like that. Can't be understated. So thank you. Thank you, Chief, for being out there. My son, 3-year-old, didn't want to get out of your patrol car there. He kept talking about wanting to go to jail. I don't think he knows
No.
what jail's like. So
Not the levy pass, but.
we'll work on that. Yeah. Thank you, NJ, for being out there as well. And then Ben, I just want to say a few words quickly that I hope this ongoing discussion about evaluating you isn't discouraging you from doing your job. If we look back, the search firm cast a wide net. You rose to the top. You were our first choice. And I think what you said at the end was what I was thinking throughout a lot of it is we have to have a level of trust. You were the best candidate. I think I, for one, have a lot of trust and confidence in your ability. None of us have a background as a city manager. We don't know the things you do day to day. So just wanted to give you words of encouragement.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Nothing else?
That's it.
Nothing else? Okay. Counselor Holmes?
Yeah, thank you. Also just want to express thanks to the Meisner family for the park donation. It's really going to bring some green space to an area of the city that is underserved with parks. And so I do hope that, in future discussions, council can really look at prioritizing some development in that park so that we really can make it a good space. I think that fulfills its intent to be an open place for the residents of that section of town. So thank you again to the Meisner family.
Thank you. Counselor Santiago?
I'd like to echo both for you guys thanking the Meisner family. That's great donation. Also echo you took that. I was going to say something, but I always think of having the conversation. It's good. It's opening just to be open, and I always think of it as a positive, never as a negative. And so don't take that we're talking about it as negativity. It's just for me, I think I like the idea of having that conversation and having that feedback back and forth. So I would welcome your feedback as well. So you're doing great. So another thing is for just a reminder, we have a Scappoose app out there. Do? Yes. And I don't think it's been updated. I don't see you, Chief, in here, but I think it's as a resource for a community, we should be promoting that. I mean, I'm sure it took time to develop this app. I think it should be more of like at some kind of a window. It's like, if I need to make a complaint, where do I go? And there's a button for city, for police, and for fire. And so there's great resources here already. I just think it does need to be updated a little bit. And I would love to see one for business. Right now, businesses are having a really hard time, especially small businesses. And so if we make it easier for them, just either, it's not necessarily that we can support them here, but just having something for them to, where to go. And so anyway, I think that we should add like a business section to our app. That would be fantastic. But yes, we do have an app.
And they do send you updates, when a road closure is, or when there's some water pipe main or anything about the new construction. They do put stuff on there from time to time, as well as our Facebook. So
You find this in the App Store?
Yeah.
yeah, I just shared it, right? You got something. Thank you, Councilor Santiago. Again, definitely thank you to the Meisners. Appreciate that very much. That is a needed area with 30, 40 more houses going in right now. That area is growing for sure. Big thanks to JJ and Jeff and Derek at the Outdoor Fun Festival. It was really busy in the morning. Gave away a lot of goodies. So thanks, Susan, for really loading us up. I think we were the hit with a lot of fun stuff there. Appreciate it. That was a great day. Farmers market looked great, bigger than normal and all day long. So that was a lot of fun to incorporate that as well. So appreciate all that. And Chief, just reiterating, we're out in the community a lot and just hearing good things, a lot of positive feedback, you and your staff helping out a lot of people. So definitely like to get that out when we can, that it's been very positive. You guys are doing a great job. That's all I have for tonight.
And
It's okay.
Council President Miller.
Everybody has said everything, so I'll just say, ditto, everybody's pretty much covered everything. Thank you, Adventure. It's good, Adventure Fest was great. I will be virtual at the next meeting. That's all I have that's unique to, I know everybody else already said.
I have your name down. I have your back. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.